Welcome back. This is video 2 in our 4-part series for lesson 1-2, Parts of Expression. Hopefully you've attempted the U-Try problems from the video 1 and checked your answers on the link on the webpage. Let's go ahead and jump into some more vocabulary in the second video. So in some terms, the variables are going to have exponents on them. And exponents are those little numbers that are above the number that are written a little bit smaller and a little bit higher than the rest of our numbers. So in the example 8x squared, the exponent would be 2. Now the exponent determines what we call the degree of that term. So the degree of 8x squared is going to be 2, and that comes straight from the exponent there. The degree of 8x to the third power, or 8x cubed, is going to be 3. Now, when the variable does not have an exponent, just like we said with our coefficient when there wasn't a coefficient that we were going to use 1, when our exponent, our variable does not have an exponent, our degree is going to be 1 as well. So for example, when we have 8x and there's no variable there, it's like we have an invisible 1 up top there as the exponent, so our degree is going to be 1. Now, if a term has more than one variable, then the degree is going to be equal to the sum of the exponents of all its variables. So for the example, the degree of 8x cubed y squared z, we would take the 3 from the first variable, the 2 from the second, and then the understood invisible 1 from the third. And we would add those all up together, and we would get 6. Now notice we only are combining terms, or only combining exponents where we don't have separate terms. There's no plus or minus in between all these variables. They're all hooked together. That's the only time we're going to add these up to get our degree. Now, if we don't have a single variable at all, our degree is going to be 0. So for example, if we just have a constant, a number that's all by itself, no variable attached, for example 9, then our degree is going to be 0. This is due to the fact that x to the 0 equals 1. We're going to spend a little bit more time on exponent properties when we get to Unit 4, but hopefully what you remember from middle school is anything raised to the 0 power will always be 1. So this is really like we have 9x to the 0, but since x to the 0 is 1, it's like having 9 times 1, which is just going to give us 9. Alright, when we look at example 2, we're asked to list the terms, coefficients, and the degree of each term in the following expression. So we're given the expression 4x cubed y squared plus 2x squared minus 3x plus 4. We're going to first count how many terms we have. We have a term here, a term here, a term here, and a term here. So 4 terms total. So our terms are going to be 4x cubed y squared. We're going to have 2x squared. We're going to have negative 3x. And we're going to have 4. If we look next at the coefficients, these are going to be numbers that are attached to variables. We have a 4, we have a 2, and we have a negative 3. And then finally, we're asked for the constant, the number that's all by itself, so that is going to be 4. Now, if we were asked to give the degree of these individual terms, notice how each one is separated with a plus or minus. So we aren't going to combine all the exponents together, just the ones in each term. So if we look at the first term, 4x cubed y squared, we have an exponent of 3 and an exponent of 2. We add those together and get 5. In our next one, we only have the one variable, and it only has one exponent, and that is 2. Now on the next one, we're given 3x. We have a variable with no exponent, so we know that that's an invisible 1. So the degree of 3x is going to be 1. And finally, our constant term 4 doesn't have any variable at all, so its degree is going to be 0. Alright, now in a polynomial, we typically list the terms in descending order of degree. And when we say descending, we're going from highest to lowest. So for example, you would rarely see an expression written like this example, 7x squared minus 8 minus x cubed minus 9 plus 4x. Instead, we would want to see it in order. We'd want to put the one with the highest exponent first. So we would rather write it negative x cubed plus 7x squared plus 4x minus 9. When a polynomial has been put in order, we call this the standard form of the polynomial. Alright. Once the polynomial has been written in descending order, the coefficient of the term with the highest degree is referred to as the leading coefficient. Additionally, if asked for the degree of the entire expression, it will be the degree of whatever that first term is when we're writing it in standard form. And that would be your term with the highest degree. So we want to give the coefficient, the leading coefficient, and the degree of the following polynomials in example number 3. So first, we always want to make sure that it's written in standard form. So if we're looking at problem A, we only have 2 terms, so it should be easy to tell whether they're in order or not. We have an exponent here with an invisible 1 and no exponents at all, so that means that one's degree is 0. So our leading coefficient is going to be the one with the highest exponent. That is going to be 1.8x to the first. Alright, our coefficient there is 1.8. That would be our leading coefficient. And then our degree is going to be the degree of that first term, which is 1. Looking at the next one, it's a little bit more complicated. Let's go ahead and figure out the degree of each term. 3 plus 2 is going to be 5. Here we only have the one exponent of 2. Here we have an invisible 1. And here we don't have any variable at all, so our degree is going to be 0. If we look in order, we have 5, 2, 1, 0. So this is listed in order from the highest degree to the lowest degree. So we already have it in standard form. Our leading coefficient is going to be 4. I was getting ahead and giving you guys the degree. The leading coefficient is 4. The degree is that 5 that I just tried to use. Alright, let's look at one more example together. We have negative 2x squared plus 2x to the 4th plus 3 minus 4x. So again, let's check out the degrees of our individual terms. We have a 2. We have a degree of 4. This one doesn't have any variable, so it has a degree of 0. And then our last one has that invisible 1. So as you can see, these ones are not listed in order. So let's go ahead and list these in order in standard form before we go any further. The degree 4 comes first, so 2x to the 4th. Then we had a degree of 2, so minus 2x squared. Then we had a degree of 1, minus 4x, and a degree of 0. So note that the leading coefficient is not always the one that's written first. In this case, our highest degree was the term 2x to the 4th. So our leading coefficient here is going to be 2. And our degree is going to be 4. Alright, you guys go ahead and attempt these U-Try problems, check your answers, and we'll see you in video 3.